Yes, everything is working. It's just a new setup for me. The little microphone. I have a new computer. Everything is new. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure things are working. Fingers crossed. So as you probably see it from the title, today I want to make an astrological forecast on the upcoming Hungarian election. The election is coming up just in a couple of days. It's going to be on the 12th of April. And there are a few reasons why I wanted to make this video. And one is obviously because I am a Hungarian native. Even though I left Hungary quite some time ago, I might, gonna go back, and whether I go back or not doesn't matter. I'm Hungarian, so I'm interested in what's happening in Hungary, politics, and just the quality of life in general. So I wanted to make for that reason, also because I'm an astrologer, so I actually can make this video. And because I don't find any other videos on this particular topic. Now, obviously, Hungary is a small country, and if you're talking about like other bigger nations, you can find so many astrological, forecasts. You can watch them, but there is not much on Hungary. In fact, there is nothing when it comes to astrological predictions. So I thought this is my time to make one. So just one heads up, this is not by any means, and I mean it, no, by any means, it's political statement. I am not interested in politics. Having said that, yes, I would like to see Peter Magyar to win. That's my personal feeling, but it has nothing to do with the reading, because I'm going to read the astrological energies, and in a minute I'm going to pull up the chart, and so you can see the chart, and we're gonna talk through the chart so you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's just, I wanted to say it out loud, because I'm sure I'm gonna get some comments about, you just made this video because you want to see him win. And yes, I would like to see him win. It's not much about him, it's more about I would like to see a change in my country, as many other people would like to see it. But again, this is just my personal opinion, but I'm trying to do my best to give a very unbiased reading. Okay, so that's something I had to get out of my chest. Now I'm going to pull up the chart in a second. Actually, let me just pull up the charts right away. Give me just one moment to actually find the chart, Peter Magyar. Okay, so here we are. Here is the chart. Before we actually get into the chart reading itself, I would like to give some very basic background information on Peter Magyar, in case you don't know him. So Peter Magyar is a Hungarian lawyer. He's lawyer by trade, but he's also a Hungarian politician, and he is, at this current moment, is the main rival of the current prime minister. His name is Viktor Orban. He's the current prime minister, and he's been leading the country in the last 16 years. So he had just until I tell this part, I will bring the chart back. So he had 4 full terms, which is quite a long period of time. It's pretty much one generation grew up under his, party, and so that is quite a big thing. And there is this guy called Peter Magyar who is trying to, make a change, trying to win the election. And according to many national media outlet, sources, at this point, it seems like that he's got a very, very good chance to actually win this election. Now, again, if you are someone from the opposite party, or if you, watch the news in Hungary, which is very known that the news in Hungary is very much controlled. The media is very much controlled by the leading party. So again, you can get different opinions. Some people would say, no, it's Viktor Orban who is leading and the Fidesz is going to win. And again, there are lots of media outlets, international media outlet who says otherwise. But that's not the point. The point is there is this massive the country is deeply divided. That is the current situation. Now back to Peter Magyar. An interesting fact about him, that he was actually previously part of the governing party. He was part of Fidesz, but there was a major scandal back in 2024. I think it was in February. There was this major scandal which involved the entire Fidesz party and also his then wife. So Peter Magyar is divorced now, but that was his ex-wife. He was married at that time, so she was also involved in this scandal. And as a result, he decided to resign, to leave the party, and go on his own. And then very soon after, I think in March, he announced that he wants to have his own, like a political platform to create something there where he can stand up and be part of the political scene and go against the recent political party. And so in March, just a month later, on the 15th of March, he announced that he became the president of this party called Tisza. And this party was actually already an existing party, but it was pretty much an unknown party. There's only very few people know about it. And so he took over and kind of rebranded it. And so he started to, lead that party, and things started to take momentum from there. And then back in 2024, in the European parliamentary election, his party secured the second place behind Fidesz, and he won something like, sorry, I have to read this because I'm really not into politics, as I said. So Fidesz gained nearly 30%, which was the highest number of votes by any non-Fidesz party since 2006. And so fast forward to the current time, the party is getting stronger and stronger. Like I said, he has a very good chance to win. And this is what I want to look at from the astrological perspective, that is this actually backed up by astrology or is it not? And spoiler alert, it is backed up very much by astrology, but it's definitely not going to be an easy ride for him. It hasn't been an easy ride for him, and it's just going to get more intensified when I look at astrology. But in my humble opinion, I think he is going to win. And again, it has nothing to do with the fact that I would like to see him win. It is purely based on the astrological chart, which I'm going to pull up once again. Give me 1 second. All right, so here we are with the chart. So if you never seen an astrological chart before, a bit of an explanation. So we have two circles. We have the blue inner circle and we have the orange outer circle. And so the blue inner circle shows Peter Magyar's natal placement, where the planets were in the sky on the day when he was born. And then the outer circle is the day of the election, means that is the transit chart for the day, meaning where are all those planets at the day of the election. And when we make predictions in astrology, what we do, we look at the two charts, the natal one and the transit chart, and we see, how the two chart interacts, and we can have a good understanding of what may or may not going to happen. Okay. Now we don't have, unfortunately, the time of birth for Peter Magyar, which is a bit of a bummer. So we won't have his rising sign. We know that he's Pisces sun, and he has a moon in Aries, which is just by itself is very telling if you know astrology a little bit. But we don't have his rising sign, and that means that we don't know where all these planets in his natal chart lands. So we see, like, stellium of planets in certain position, but we don't know what area of life is actually talking about. Is it the career? Is it the house? Is it the health? Is it the relationship and marriage? So all we can rely on is the relationship between and the aspect between the natal planets and the transiting planets. So that's what we have to work with. And to be honest, often when we're talking about world astrology and, chart of political leaders or even just celebrities in general, sometimes you just don't have the time of birth. The date of birth, this is obviously, this is like a public information. You can Google it on Wikipedia, but the time of birth is sometimes we have and sometimes we don't. Okay. All right. Oh, and then I just picked the time 2 p.m. Again, I could have just not used any time, but the election is going to happen on Sunday pretty much the whole day, and 2 o'clock is kind of, I would say, it's like the middle of, in the day. So I thought that's just random, but probably a good time to use. But I could have used any other time on that day. Now, so the first thing I want to say is how I'm going to do this is first I'm going to talk about the astrological energies in general, because again, if you know astrology even just a little bit, you know that this is a very, very volatile time we're going through right now, especially in this month. And so I want to read that and talk about that a little bit, because that gives you a very good, background information, or like a larger context of where we are or what we're dealing with. And then I'm going to read more like what's happening for him, specifically. And I'm going to start with more of the so-called more challenging or hard aspects. And those are the red line, what you can see on the screen. So those are the red lines. And then after, I'm going to talk about the supportive energies, the supportive aspects, which are the blue lines. And then I'm just going to give you my overall understanding and overall opinion of why I think that he has a very good chance to win, which I already told you. So that's not a secret, that this is what I see in this chart. So the reason this month is particularly problematic for the world globally, so we're talking about the global scene, not just Hungary, is because we have this massive planetary stellium in the sign of Aries. And stellium just simply means that you have, or at this point, like we have in this chart, 3 or more planets in the same sign. And so we have Mars, Neptune, Saturn. So I'm just going to point it. You might can see it. So Mars, Neptune, Saturn, the Sun, even Chiron is there. And a few days after the election, I think 2 or 3 days later, Mercury will also move into this part of the chart, into Aries. And the reason why it's problematic, first of all, because this is happening what we call the world axis. And so the world axis is the 0 degrees of the cardinal signs. We have 4 cardinal signs, and Aries is one of them. So whenever we have things happening on the world axis, that's always have a bigger ramification on global event, on world events. So whatever happens on the world axis, astrologically speaking, you can always see the results of that in the world. And so whatever going to happen in this month is going to affect not just Hungary, not just Europe. It's going to affect the world in general. Again, we're talking about the global scene, and so that's something that we know. But because this whole thing is happening in the sign of Aries, and Aries unfortunately is related to war. It's the sign of war, and also Mars, the planet which rules Aries, also related to war activities, aggression, escalation of any sorts, belongs to Aries. And that is why, and when you look at the word, you know what I'm talking about here. I don't have to go into really details. I think we have things come up straight away in our mind when I talk about war. We know what part of the word we are talking about. And so yes, we have Mars, Neptune, Saturn, the Sun, and Chiron there. And when you have these planets together, especially Neptune and Mars, which, as you can see, they both at 2 degrees, so they very closely conjunct. That means is the war, or this warlike energy, is very strong, but the Neptunian energy is also very strong. And unfortunately, the lower manifestation of Neptune is confusion, it's fog, mental fog, emotional fog. It's like you wanting to change action, you're very ready to change action, take action, you're very ready to take action, but there is not really much clarity happening, whether it's in your own life, while you're making this decision, or when you look around you, there is not much clarity, but you still you're still taking action, and that is a problematic thing to have. The sun is already there. That just means, the sun, which again, in astrology is always, wherever the sun is, it brings heat, light, and vitality to that area of the chart. The sun is here. The sun, represents our identity, who and what we identify with as a human being. So again, there will be this big identification with this war, and people wanting to, take part of it and be part of it, but there will be a lot of confusion, and not only a confusion on the the individual's part, but once Mercury moves into this area, it talks about the confusion and delusion and misinformation, because Mercury rules communication. Any type of communication, whether it's through social media or writing or TV or whatnot, any kind of communication is ruled by Mercury. And so again, that's going to be this combination of people wanting to do something, wanting to take initiative, just jump into something, but it's not very clear what they're jumping into it, and there is a lot of misinformation about it. And like I said, this is the word energy. It's a global energy, but on the day of the election, Hungary is part of the global, the world. So this is the energy that is the backdrop energy for the election. And as you probably understand, this is not really a good day to have an election. And like I said, most astrologers agree that April is one, if not the most difficult month in the entire year, and especially from this week. So the next 2 weeks is especially problematic, and unfortunately, the Hungarian election is falls right, right in the middle of it. So that's just how it is. And the other reason that we have this energy that is really unsettling, and it's not a safe environment, is because we have Uranus. You can see it here in Taurus, and it's just hovering through the very last degree of Taurus, and is going to move into the sign of Gemini on the 26th of this month. And so Uranus spent the last 7 years in the sign of Taurus, and now it's moving into a new sign. Sorry, just 1 second. I am sitting on my leg and it's not comfortable. So whenever we have a slow-moving outer planet changing sign, that is always a little bit problematic because it moves through what we call the anaretic degree. The anaretic degree is really just the very last degree of any signs. And so when we have, especially not just any planet, but a slow-moving planet moving through that gives another layer of uncertainty. It also brings this layer of something new gonna happen because it brings new beginnings. Whenever an outer planet moves into a new sign, means Uranus was staying in the sign of Taurus for 7 years. Did its job there, and now it's moving into a new territory, bringing up new themes and topics related to the sign of Gemini. Now, we're not going to go into that details because then this video would go, for hours and hours. But again, I just wanted to give you a background information, why we have all these unsettling energies, but volatile energies at the same time. And you can already feel it right now. We're already in the midst of it. It's going to be strong throughout the election and also especially a few days after the election. Okay, so that's just something I wanted to point out. Now, let's talk about more into details the negative, or as we call it in astrology, the hard aspects. Hard aspects are conjunctions, squares, or oppositions. And what you see here in the chart is a lot of opposition. So all these red lines, running across from one point to another, these are all oppositions, which is kind of funny, but again, astrology always backs up what is happening. What astrology always translates into the 3D world because what you see is opposition. And this whole election, when you think about it, it's about opposite parties, people who stand on opposite sides, people who have, opposite opinion, and they butt head and they're going against each other. And again, this is what you see on the day of the election using Peter Magyar's natal chart. So this is very much related to him. This is his transit chart for the day. So we get the Uranus opposition here. This is like the thicker line. By the way, whether a line is more thick or a thinner line, it doesn't talk about, it's like, it's worst or it's easier because it's a thinner line. No, it just simply means that when the line is thick, there is an exact opposition. So within 3 degrees, those lines show up as a thick line. And if it's, moved away from the 3-degree orb, then it becomes a thinner line. So yeah, that's just that. So he's got this Uranus opposition, and I think out of all the oppositions, that's probably the least problematic. Firstly, because Uranus oppositions are actually a generational aspect, meaning that anyone around the age of early 40s to mid 40s at some point going through this aspect. So all of us, we go through this aspect. Fun fact, I just finished my Uranus opposition because I just happen to be exactly the same age as Peter Magyar. So I have the same aspect. And so this aspect, what essentially really bring 9 out of 10 times, it brings this energy of wanting to break free and wanting to break through. That's the reason why in astrology we call it the midlife crisis aspect, because this is the time when people, not everyone, it depends your own natal chart and what have you done previously in your life, but this is the time when Uranus gets activated by opposition, when we're wanting to break free, when we're wanting to make some real big changes in our life. And the nature of Uranus is very fast. It's very unpredictable. Uranus rules things like the lightning, the networks, anything that moves really fast, that is ruled by Uranus. So what happens often that we get this moment of aha moment that, okay, something happened and I realize that I want to change things in my life. And for me, it's kind of shows up again in Peter's Magyar life, when these things happened in the party, that scandal and the things happened, involving his wife. And that was for him, I think, that aha moment, that something happened very quickly. It was very unexpected. No one pretty much saw that coming. And it happened. And then he made a decision, like a snap decision. Okay, I'm going to get out from here and I'm going to do something on my own. So again, this is very much this Uranus opposition, this breaking free, breaking through energy. This is when, again, we want to make changes in our life. And again, Uranus opposition is quite liberating. Sometimes when people looking into someone else's life and see people going through this Uranus opposition, they think, oh, what the hell were you thinking? That's when people ask, like, oh, did you just do that? Like, why did you do that? We don't understand. This is a typical Uranus opposition. Because it's very sudden and it's very unpredictable. But generally speaking, Uranus oppositions, once we go through it, it's quite liberating. So this is just something he's going through, and this is something that fits very clearly into his, into his current life story. So the other opposition I wanted to point out, which is this thick line here, and that is what we call the Saturn opposition. Give me just 1 second because I have to drink some water. Sorry, I'm back. So this is what we call the Saturn opposition. And Saturn opposition does not happen often at all. We have one Saturn opposition around the age of 14, and then we get the second Saturn opposition around the age of 45. So it only happens around 2-3 times in anyone's life. So it is a very rare event. And Saturn opposition always bring extra what's it called, extra responsibilities. It can bring restrictions, because that is the very nature of Saturn, is it restricts things. Things just become, it has this ability to shrink. So whether it's your opportunities, it's just shrink. You feel like you have less choices, but at the same time, it also brings extra, like I said, extra responsibilities, because Saturn is the planet of hard work. Saturn is the planet of rules and regulations. Saturn is the planet of, Saturn actually rules time. So that's why whenever we work with Saturn, or we have Saturn transit, whether it's opposition or any other transit, the only way to work with Saturn is through hard work. With Saturn opposition, you usually have to put like extra effort to get the same amount of result that you otherwise would get. Now, the good thing with Saturn is Saturn, like I said, it's not an easy transit. It's pretty much this energy of, you have to grind. You just have to keep on doing. You have to keep, reaching for your goal. But it is an energy of crystallizing and, building something that is lasting. And again, this is something we can see because this is what he's doing. And again, it doesn't matter you are against him or with him. that is very clear that in the last 2 years, all he's doing is, is going around the country and talking to people and trying to make change. Poor guy, he really aged like 10 years in 2 years. And so again, this is a fact that he's working hard. Now, whether it works for you or you believe what he's working for, it's a different story, but he's definitely using this energy of Saturn. Now, this is an applying aspect, means the transiting Saturn is not at the same degree as his natal Saturn. That means that energy, unfortunately for him, is just going to get stronger. It's going to be more dominant. And it's going to last for at least for another, 5-6 months. What this aspect is very strong. But Saturn goes through one sign, takes 2.5 years to go through one sign. So it's a longer transit, but obviously it's not going to opposing his natal Saturn the entire time. The energy will ease off a little bit. But right now, this is very active. And again, this is what you see in his life, playing out right now, this Saturn opposition. Let me just see what I wrote, if I left anything out. No, really, it's just you have to put the extra effort and, you have to go the extra mile to get the results you want. But once you work hard with this energy and you have the patience and the endurance, they usually get the results from Saturn. Okay. Now, I think one of the biggest issue for him, and definitely the most challenging one, is this line here, even though it's a thinner line, because it's not exact just yet, and that is the Pluto opposition. So the transiting Pluto is opposing his natal moon and his natal north node. Now, as you know, astrology, I don't have to introduce Pluto properly, but if you don't know anything about Pluto, Pluto is, in astrology, is the planet which is, first of all, the furthest from us. This is the slowest moving planet. Yet this is the one that brings the biggest, most profound, life-changing event, people, places into your life. Now, the other interesting thing about Pluto, that because Pluto moves so slowly, that many people actually never go through an aspect, like a hard aspect from Pluto. And in this case, the hard aspect, like I said, is the opposition. And that because Pluto, because it has this elliptic, okay, I can't say the word, but it's when it's not round, but more like in a slightly different shape. So it has this orb. That's why Pluto can spend anywhere between 12 to 30 years in one sign. And right now, Pluto will be in the sign of Aquarius all the way up to 2044. And it moved into Aquarius in 2023. So it's going to spend altogether just a little bit over 20 years. And so this is a very, very rare event. And as I said before, that the rarer the astrological event, the more profound the circumstances in your life going to turn out. The rarer the event, the more profound the change you see in your own life, or in this case, Peter Magyar's chart. Now, Pluto is the planet of ultimate transformation. Pluto rules anything like death and rebirth. It's often not, the physical death. Sometimes it is, but often it's more like, the death of your old self, the death of, circumstances in your life, habits. Like I said, Pluto is the one that brings ultimate change on the deepest, more profound level into our lives. And when Pluto is opposing the moon and the north node, because that's what he does at this time for him, because he's got this north node conjunct the moon, so both of them are opposed at the same time. Let's start with the moon. That is very, very challenging when it comes to emotions, when it comes to your inner security, because that's what the moon represents. This is our inner self, the deepest place where you feel safe. The moon also represents the mother and also the female figures in general in our life. But also is our emotions, like the moon represents our emotions. And when you have the opposition from Pluto, unfortunately, there is this, how can I say it, like this, you're almost like in a pressure cooker emotionally, and something has to give. Unfortunately, the moon also represents just, domestic life in general, like the people in your home, your family, in a larger sense. And so there will be profound changes for him. And unfortunately, those changes with Pluto almost always come through pain. And that is because that's what Pluto does. Pluto breaks things down before builds things back up. This is how Pluto operates. And that's the reason why so many people truly fear Pluto transit, especially the hard transits, because something usually with Pluto transit, or many things, are taken away from us. And again, in his case, we're talking about the moon, which is, the inner security, and home life, and just female figure in general. Okay, that also represents the moon in leaders chart, like politicians and world leaders and the leader of country, which in his case I think applies. The moon represents the people. So there is this opposition, and we can see it. Some people love him and some people hate him. And that's just the nature of this Pluto opposition. And this is a longer transit, unfortunately. So Pluto transit lasts for about 2 to 3 years. Like he's going to feel it for about 2 to 3 years. Again, this is an applying aspect. So it's not going to be any easier for him, unfortunately, for the next year at least, or even the next 2 years. It's just not going to get much easier than that. Now, the other thing is, make things even more complicated, is that he's got the North Node, which in astrology represents, it has many names, but really the North Node represents ultimately the soul's purpose in this life. So if someone asks, oh, what am I going to do and what am I supposed to do? The first thing we look at in the birth chart is the North Node. Because again, the North Node shows us what you are meant to do, what you are here to do in this lifetime. And for him, the North Node conjunct the moon. And like I said, the moon in leader's chart relate to the people. So it is very clear that he has this destiny or karma, or again, there are many names to call the North Node, but really a life lesson for him. The ultimate lesson for him that he has to learn in this lifetime is to be a leader. And that is not just because North Node conjunct the moon, but because it's in the sign of Leo, which is, again, the sign of the leaders, leaderships, kings, people in power, people in position. So it's very clear that this is his life path, to lead at some point, and lead a country, lead people. The moon also represents the home, the homeland. So all this belongs to his destiny. But unfortunately, like I said, there is this opposition from Pluto. Now, luckily, the ultimate goal with Pluto, doesn't matter how much hardship we're going through, the ultimate goal of Pluto, any Pluto transit, is empowerment, giving you the empowerment. But unfortunately, that empowerment doesn't come easily. First, you're losing things. First, you feel like, things falling apart in your life, and you have to literally build things back up. And that's essentially how you build and how you gain and how you experience that empowerment, that the ultimate goal of Pluto in a transit. So yeah, this is, like I said, it's not a thick line, simply because this is not exact, this opposition just yet, but as the weeks and months will go by, it's just going to get stronger. So, but this is, again, he won't get this Pluto opposition ever again, because for Pluto to come back to the same position takes 200 and I think it's 264 days, 64 years to go through the entire zodiac. So again, this is a once in a lifetime transit, and like I said, not every person ever has a Pluto transit. So this is again very telling for me from an astrological perspective, pointing, make me believe that this is about him winning the election, because if he wasn't winning the election, you wouldn't have an intense chart like this, because if he didn't win the election, sure, he would be disappointed and he worked really hard to try to make a difference. But if he didn't win the election, he won't have this much oppositional energy, because then things will just go back to kind of normal, how it was 16 for the last 16 years. So I think all this, what we see here is the build up to this point, that he is, in my opinion, going to win the election, but it is an extremely difficult path for him. But essentially, looking at his natal placement of the North Node and the Moon, this is the path what he was meant to choose. And yeah, this is the North Node. So this is the North Node, which is a very karmic point, and this is Pluto, which is again related to karma, very karmic point. So I think that is what he's going through right now. All right. Let me just see. Yes, so long-term intense emotional transformation, changes with family member. Unfortunately, this is also related to, the security, like emotional security, but also just how you feel secure. So he could face something that, he could be physically in danger. And again, not just on the day of the election, but through the next few months or during the next year or so, while this transit is active, he unfortunately has this thing in the chart that shows that he could, possibly be in danger himself. Again, not an easy transit to have, but it is very telling. All right. Let me see. Okay, so I think the thing is I could talk a lot more, but I've been already talking quite some time, and all I've been talking is more of the negative aspect, and you're probably thinking, okay, you're talking like 40 minutes, so are you sure he's gonna win? Because all you talk about is like the negative stuff. Let's talk about the positive aspects, because there are some saving grace, in my opinion, some saving grace for him. And one of them is that this Pluto is not only opposing his Moon and his North Node, but is also trining Saturn and Jupiter. So when we have the trine from Saturn and Jupiter, that that deep transformation that comes from Pluto, it becomes a supportive one. So it's still Pluto, it's still energy that is really intense, but this is a supportive change. And so while he's got this inner emotional change, which is very difficult, he's also getting the support from Pluto, trining Saturn and Jupiter. And that is clearly talking about building something, because we're talking about Saturn, building something that has a positive and long-term effect on him, because it's Pluto, so it's deep, it's transformational, and it's Saturn, which talks about things that takes time and effort and hard work and diligence. So whatever he's going through, whatever he's building, whatever he's grinding through, essentially he's gonna get the results he wants. But right now the negative energies are more prominent. He also got the trine to Jupiter. It's because he's got the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. And again, this is a very positive one, because Pluto is supporting any Jupiterian themes, and Jupiter represents things like foreign affairs, law, wisdom, public affairs, teaching, publishing, being seen on a world scale, on a global scale. That's all represented by Jupiter. And so again, having that trine from Pluto is very, very, very positive. And again, this is luckily, it's also a long-term transit. So all this negative and positive going to happen for him simultaneously. Okay, so that's a very good aspect to have. And now let's talk about the aspect that is happening more on the day of the election. And that is when you look at the sun on the day of the election is in Aries, as we mentioned before, in the stellium, and the sun on the day of the election is trining Neptune, and that is a very good positive aspect to have, because the higher manifestation of Neptune is your higher vision. It's like what you envision for yourself, for in this case maybe for his people, what's his idea, what he's trying to create. This is Neptune, the Neptunian energies. And when you get the trine from the sun represents our identity, the sun represents our ego, who you believe you are on a deep core level. And again, the dreams are supported because Neptune is trining the sun. And so it is, again, a very supportive aspect to have. And because the sun moves very fast, so having the sun an exact trine, and this is also an applying trine, meaning the sun is at 22 degrees 35 minutes, and his Neptune is at 24. So meaning the sun is moving towards that exact trine. The trine simply means 120 degrees between the two planets. So it's just moving towards that exactitude, means it's going to get stronger as the day goes by and as the week goes by. So this is, again, very telling and very supportive. What else I want to say? He also got, although it's not exact, but almost exact, he has what we call the Mars return. So the transiting Mars is coming to the same position where his natal Mars is. Like I said, it's already 3 degrees away, but it's still pretty close. And Mars represents things like, as I said before, action. It's also the war, but on a more positive note, just Mars itself, especially in the sign of Aries, where it is at home. This is the home sign of Mars. You get this extra boost from Mars. Like, you just really have this get-go energy of you really want to make a difference. You really active. You really energized on that day, which, again, good for him, because he definitely need that energy on the day of the election. And let's just finish off with just a few more things, because it's really going to be a long video. And the thing is really nice here, as you see this thick blue line, is that this Neptune and Mars and even Saturn, so this triple conjunction of planets, all these 3 planets are trining, which is, again, the most harmonious aspect anyone can have in a chart. All of them trining his moon and trining his north node. So Mars, even though it's with Mars, is not a really, it's still like about 5 degrees in orb, but Mars moves fast, so he can already feel that energy. But definitely with Saturn, there is the trine. Saturn trying the moon again is getting the support from the people you want and building something up from them using the energy of Saturn. And again, it's also trining Saturn, trining his north node, which is about talking about his own destiny, what he's here in this world he is meant to do. And having that trine aspect to your nodes it is very supportive, but also it's a bit more than that. It's very telling, because there are so many points in this chart. Pluto, Saturn, the nodes, all of them represents karma in different ways and your destiny. So when you have all of them being activated around the same time, you know that something big and something life-changing for him is going to happen. And again, it just doesn't really fit into the narrative, in my humble opinion, not winning the election. Because again, if he doesn't win the election, sure, he will be still in politics and, you know, trying to make a difference. But these energies, you don't get these kind of energies and this kind of power from a transit chart unless you gain something really big. That's what I'm trying to say here. All right, and the very last thing I want to say is the upcoming energies. So the energies that are not, they're not strong at this moment, but when we're looking ahead, what we are going to see for him to come up. And that is, we have Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, is already there. So Jupiter is currently moving through Cancer, and it's at 16 degrees. Right now, all these planets, what he has, this stellium natally in Pisces, all these planets very soon going to get the trine from Jupiter. And Jupiter is the most benefic planet in astrology. Jupiter brings all the good things. You always want Jupiter on your side, especially when you are in the bumpy situation. And Jupiter is not only going to trine one planet, it's going to trine pretty much all of his personal planets, meaning going to trine Venus, going to trine the Sun and Mars. So again, that's gonna be a very positive, very flowing, very very positive energy for him to achieve what he wants. And because this trine is going to trine involves his sun, which is again his ego, his identity. Venus represents our values, what we believe, what we value. And Mars, again, it's the planet of action. So all of them gonna get the boost from Jupiter. And Jupiter is not just in any position. Jupiter is already in an elevated position, because Jupiter is the strongest in the sign of Cancer. So that is just a fantastic energy to have. And that's gonna come up within like about 2 months, because by the time we reach July, I think maybe 26th, 24th, end of July, once we reach the end of July, Jupiter will move into the sign of Leo. Sorry, that was a brain fog for a moment. So yeah, Jupiter will move into the sign of Leo. And then Jupiter is going to come and conjunct his Moon and going to conjunct his North Node. So again, all his important points in the chart, the North Node and the Moon, is going to get the support from Jupiter by a conjunction, through a conjunction. So again, that's just really showing me that right now he's going through more the challenging part of the transits. But as we move ahead a few months, he is definitely going to get more support, astrologically speaking. All right. I don't know. I think that was enough, because I'm getting tired. And in all honesty, there are so many other things we could read out from this chart, but my point is not to talk for hours, although I've been almost talking for an hour. But the point being is, I just wanted to make an overall picture about the astrological energies. That was the whole point. And again, I hope that it helps you understand that it's not my personal opinion that he's going to win because I want him to win. But I wanted to be honest. Yes, I would like to see a change in the country, and I would be happy if he wins. So when I opened up his chart, when I first started to study his chart, I felt relief, because in my humble opinion, he is going to win. Now, again, we don't know his rising sign, and also, no one is perfect. I can be, maybe I'm not right. Maybe he's gonna lose. But to be honest, I would be in complete shock if he loses, because astrology always backs up what is happening. Again, that's how astrologers make predictions for millennia. And so what I'm seeing is supporting the idea that he is going to be the new prime minister of Hungary. And yeah, I'm just going to finish with that. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please give a thumbs up. If you would like to see more videos on astrological topics, please follow my channel. And yeah, if you have any comment, any question, please just write it in the comment section. If you have any comment about your political statement, please don't even try, because I'm not going to answer. I don't care what side you are on, even if you are with him, because again, it's not about your political beliefs or my political beliefs or my political preference. So please, if you have any comments about that, keep it to yourself. You already have way too much about that in Hungary. It's everywhere. But if you have comments about astrology and you have questions, and you want to know more, or if you want to see someone else's chart, you want me to make an astrological reading based on someone else's chart, please let me know. Write it in the comment section, and I'm happy to do that. All right. Let me just stop sharing. Wow, that was a big long talk. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and hopefully see you in the next video, and let's see what's gonna happen on Sunday. All right, thank you guys. Bye for now. Bye.